Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's live show, we got a lot to talk about. Tyreek Hill. Could the Vikings be trading for Miami Dolphins superstar wide receiver? The streets are hot. Then we're also going to be talking about Anthony Richardson. Kevin O'Connell was a massive fan of this guy when he was coming out of Florida, and with the Colts turning the keys of the franchise over to former Vikings legend Daniel Jones, does it make sense for the Vikes to trade for Anthony Richardson? We'll talk about the wide receiver position, talk about the backup quarterback position, then also get into a mailbag on the later half of today's live show. But question of the hour here. Should the Vikings trade for Tyreek Hill? You guys let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I made this the live poll today. 104 votes right now. 77% saying the Vikings should. We got some P's coming in from Cash. What's going on? Connor Viking saying T. Tariq saying T for trade. Football for Life saying Tyreek would ruin our chemistry. He sucks. I completely disagree with you. Tyreek Hill grew up a Minnesota Vikings fan. Tyreek Hill's son, when asked who his favorite player in the NFL was not his dad. It was actually Justin Jefferson. And if you have the thoughts that I do about Kevin O'Connell being one of the best culture builders in the NFL, bringing in a guy like Tyreek Hill who, yes, is there some noise around his name? Does he, bring a little bit of an entourage with him? Does he bring some chaos? 100%. But, I'm actually rewatching How I Met Your Mother right now. I don't know if you guys ever seen the hot crazy scale. Kind of the same thing applies to the NFL. Just the talent crazy scale. Tyreek Hill's talent is far up that, graph, and then obviously his, craziness is about midway. But I think it would be worth it. I would at least do it. And could you imagine rolling into week one in Chicago, and we're rolling up with Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson. Once Addison comes back, you're creating one of the best big threes in NFL history. And, obviously with the injuries at the wide receiver position, Rondo Moore out for the year. And now we got even more news. This was coming in just a little bit ago from Kevin Seifert saying this turned out to be a pretty physical practice. Wide receivers, Jordan Addison and Ty Felton left with what looked like to be hand/arm injuries. They remained on the sidelines but didn't resume practicing. And also Jeff Okudah went inside mid-practice with his right shoe off. So the injury bug is already starting to strike with the Vikings. And, obviously Addison, the only impact this has, I think he's just not going to play Friday against the Tennessee Titans when the plan was to play him. But I'm assuming he won't be out there. And Ty Felton, if he's hurt and he can't play week one, who do we have outside of Justin Jefferson? Do you guys trust Lucky Jackson? Do you trust Tim Jones, Jayshon Jones? I love all those guys as, being practice squad, wide receiver 6s on a roster, but getting the wide receiver 2 nod in this Kevin O'Connell system next to Jefferson, that's a massive role to play. And I just don't have faith, especially Lucky Jackson. He was impressing all camp, but he also had a pretty, poor game this past Saturday against the Patriots, had a brutal drop on the left sideline. So I think the Vikings have to be aggressive. They have to go make a move at the wide receiver spot because all of the offseason moves have indicated they view this year as a Super Bowl contending year. They feel like this team is good enough to go and win a championship this upcoming season. And you're just going to kick the tires on the first 3 games? I don't think that's the plan. And plus, even when Addison returns, that wide receiver 3 spot is still a massive question mark. Now, yes, I would trust Ty Felton developing where he would, eventually get to the spot where he can be a high-end wide receiver 3 for this team. And Jalen Naylor obviously played that role pretty well this past season. But with the injury bug already starting to strike, maybe they just swing big and they go land a guy like Tyreek Hill. So I'd be all in on it. We'll explain more thoughts here coming up on the exact show here in a couple of minutes. But besides Tyreek, name a wide receiver the Vikings should bring in. I'll challenge you guys not to say Adam Thielen. I'm assuming we'll see a lot of Thielens down below, but I'd be in on it. Dylan, do you got a guy that the Vikes should maybe target? You're going free agent, Brandon Powell, Thielen. If you got a guy on the top of your mind, let us know.
If you're going the safe option, I would say Powell just because he knows the system already, that KOC playbook. And look, he was at the game the other day, so
Yep.
He obviously still has interest in playing for the Vikings. But if they wanted to go bold, I know you like this guy. Alec Pierce from the Colts could be a great fit for them.
Yeah, we'll talk about Alec Pierce more in depth here. Pierce is a great deep threat. I think he could be a pretty solid wide receiver too, and I think he would be one of the better wide receiver 3s in the National Football League once Addison gets back. So there are options out there. There are answers to this problem. It's not an unsolvable problem here in Minnesota, but My guy's Tyreek Hill. Understand it, we're not playing Madden, we're not, playing fantasy football here, but what do you do if you're an opposing defense? Because Jefferson, you got to get 4 eyeballs on him no matter who's next to him. And if you're giving Jefferson the attention he deserves and he'll get every single week, and then you're leaving Tyreek Hill one-on-one, and then when Addison gets back, what are you doing with him? And then you still got the TJ Hawkinson issue for defenses. Like, it would just really create, in my opinion, outside of the quarterback position, if the Vikings trade for Tyreek Hill, it's probably one of the most talented offenses we have ever seen in National Football League history. I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not trying to, get like a hot take out there, but with improved offensive line, you check every box on that offensive line. It's not like, oh, there's a hole at left guard, there's a hole at right guard. They got every position filled up. You obviously got the best wideout in the game. You would still have a top 10 receiver in Tyreek Hill. Then you got Jordan Addison, a top 20 receiver, 2 good backs, 2 good tight ends. Kevin O'Connell calling the shots. I think it makes a lot of sense. But Z Cool coming in. What's going on, man? Appreciate you supporting the show. Send a $10 super chat. Shout out to you, man. Give me a skull, Z Cool, down below in the comments section. But he's saying with the tutelage from Jefferson and KOC, we don't need a big, proven wide receiver. Who, in your opinion, isn't well known that could blossom in our wide receiver room? That's a hell of a question, Z Cool. Some lower level targets for the Vikings. I don't know if I was thinking like in division trades probably are very rare, but maybe you could call the Packers about one of their guys like Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, but I don't know if the Packers want to give the Vikings a wide receiver. Alec Pierce is more of a well-known name, but he's a guy that I've been keeping my eyes out on. And probably the, wide receiver that could blossom in our room is a guy that's already been here. It would probably be Brandon Powell for me. I think he could, really play that role pretty damn well, but I think the Vikings are going to go big fish hunting here. I think if they are, I don't think they're just trying to find a stopgap at wide receiver for the first 3 weeks. I think they're trying to add some more talent. And I think that falls in the bucket of the Alec Pierces, the Tyreek Hills, those big names. Like, I see Tyler Boyd coming in from Connor Vikings. That's another guy that could probably be pretty effective. But they have shown no interest in Amari Cooper. They have shown no interest in Gabe Davis. So that makes me think they're going to try to go land a big fish. Because if they wanted to go get those, less proven, unknown wideouts, they would just go sign Amari. They would go sign Gabe Davis. They would go sign a Tyler Boyd. So, Z Cool, I appreciate you as always. But I think, obviously it's not a need for a Tyreek Hill, but the Vikings are in the position to, add the cherry on top. You already got the cake. You already got the ice cream. You already got the sprinkles. Tyreek Hill would be that cherry on this championship cake, hopefully for the Vikes. Tyreek would be my guy. But we'll kick it back to the wide receiver conversation here in a second, but I want to get the pulse of you guys here real quick. Would you trade for Anthony Richardson? Give me a Y for yes. Give me an N for no. Is GIS Wizard saying Evans from Tampa Bay? Mike Evans would I'd be stunned if Tampa moves off him. But you never know with Mecca Buka stepping up. He looks pretty solid. We'll see. I doubt he gets moved, but definitely out there. But you guys let me know on Richardson here real quick. I see a flurries of no's, a flurries of yeses coming in. You guys seem pretty 50-50. Is W. Myers saying, yo, did Addison get injured at practice? Yes, he did. We believe he's dealing with a left hand injury, which is obviously not good there. But Richardson, what would you have to give up? I'm guessing you would probably have to give up a 4th-round pick. At least that's what I would guess. Maybe a 4th. I doubt the Vikings would even consider giving up a 3rd for him, but a 4th, 5th-round pick probably gets it done. W. Myers, what the hell indeed. And the injury bug at the Vikings wide receiver room has been running through that room this whole offseason. But what about this? Kevin O'Connell, smart offensive mind. Obviously, Richardson's not going to be the starting quarterback. What about a little Taysom Hill? Could Anthony Richardson step in and play that Taysom Hill role with this Vikings offense? I think he could. He's a freak athlete. He actually would have had a higher RAS score at the tight end position over a guy like Kyle Pitts. That's how freaky he is. So maybe KOC, he's looking at, Anthony Richardson as another, obviously a developmental project. But you could also have some Anthony Richardson packages. J.J. McCarthy is still a smaller dude at the quarterback spot. You could use Richardson as your tush-push guy. He's obviously injury-prone. You understand that. But for a backup quarterback, you could really care less if he ends up getting hurt. But still, Sam Howell hasn't looked good. Max Brosmer has been an awesome story, but do you feel comfortable him being your QB2 throughout the entire season? And if you would just let KOC get his hands on Anthony Richardson, which we'll also dive into some quotes and some reports when we fully talk about him. The Vikings were all in on this guy. They were going to sell the farm and send a haul for Anthony Richardson when he was coming out. Like Kevin O'Connell, he has been pretty transparent about that. He was a massive fan of him. So I think it's a little more likely than people think. Even Dan Orlovsky said the Rams and Vikings should call Indianapolis for Anthony Richardson. So we'll talk about all that. But Skolger coming in with $10 super chat. We appreciate you saying, I would rather not give up any draft capital. And you know what, Dylan? You actually got that photo in there. If we could just flash that real quick. I hear what you guys are saying. Obviously, with the Vikings, having only 4 picks this past draft, people are a little scared to give up draft capital. Or not that, the one of Kwesi. But also, it's not like the Vikings have used these picks well. I would rather go and have this mentality, F them picks, take it from the Los Angeles Rams. You go at a guy like Tyreek Hill, this team becomes unguardable. Like, just imagine, everybody close your eyes. You're an opposing DB, and you're scouting the Vikings that week, and you got to go line up, and you got Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill in this run game coming at you. What do? It's an unsolvable problem for defenses. There is no scheme. There is no personnel grouping that could go one-on-one with them. Also, shout out to Purple for the One podcast. Took that from him. Saw him tweet that out. Genius stuff. That's a badass photo as well. But listen, the Rams adapted this motto. They got a Super Bowl out of it. You got to be overly aggressive in the NFL to get to the promised land. And sometimes if you're sacrificing future draft capital, that might be the way to go. But Corey Miller coming in saying, is it worth waiting for a wide receiver to be cut? Definitely is. I mean, roster cutdown day is in 6 days. But the only risk with that is, let's just say you wait for that to happen and there's no wide receivers that you are interested in that got cut. Then you would just kind of put yourself behind the 8 ball. If you are trading for, a high-end guy, it just kind of limits that time they have to study the playbook and get accustomed to the offense. And plus, any wide receivers that are getting cut, are they going to move the needle too much? Don't really think so. And yeah, no, I hear you, Mark. Don't forget about tight end TJ Hawkinson. I hear you. But, hey, week 1, that wide receiver 2 right now is Lucky Jackson. I love Lucky Jackson. That would be a crime to roll him out there to be the wide receiver 2 against the Chicago Bears, a solid secondary. Going against Dennis Allen, a creative defensive mind, he's going to try his best to take away Justin Jefferson. Can we run TJ and at wide receiver? You definitely could. That will probably be in the playbook already, even if the Vikings do trade for another wide receiver. But expect TJ to be split out wide a lot. Probably Josh Oliver will have his hand in the dirt a good amount. And both those guys should be playing 100% of offensive snaps week 1. But yeah, I hear you on waiting for a guy, but if you wait for a guy, it's not going to move a needle in any sort of direction. But Tyreek Hill, Alec Pierce, Adam Thielen, they're all needle movers for this team. Now, quickly, I want to get you guys the update on our Super Chat raffle. So every $10 that you guys send in the month of August, we are entering you guys in to win a raffle for a Vikings Winter Warrior helmet. We're going to do this raffle Friday night. So if you guys want to get an extra raffle ticket in right now, we'll lock you guys in. Z-Cool, you already got one. Skolger, you already got one. So you guys are already locked in. But this is the helmet we're going to be giving away. So $10 if you guys want to get in on the raffle. Would really appreciate it. But if not, all good there. So coming up on today's show, we're going to first talk about the Tyreek Hill trade and talk about the Anthony Richardson buzz. And then we will be diving into a mailbag. So if you guys want to get a question in there, hashtag Vikings or Super Chat to get up on today's show. And if you guys are ready to rock and roll, hit that thumbs up icon. We got 240 people in the building. Let's just get 8 more likes to get to 50. I would greatly appreciate it. But appreciate the audience today, man. You guys are showing up and showing out. As Z-Cool telling you guys to like the video. Once we get to 50 likes, I'll give you guys my full thoughts on Tyreek Hill. There's a lot to dive into. There will be a lot of mouths to feed in this wide receiver room. Would he stay happy? Would he cause problems in the locker room? Do the Vikings need to give up future draft capital? Hey, the Dolphins have a need at the offensive guard and tackle spot. Maybe you could attach a 3rd-round pick and Blake Brandel, and that could get it done for Tyreek Hill. So we'll talk about all these trades coming up. We're at 67 likes, though. What were the raffle tickets for last week? It was for the helmet as well. So if you sent one in last week, you're already in there for the raffle for the Vikings helmet. Imagine Hill getting pulled over in Minneapolis. We're not going to address that, Zekool. We're not going to address that. Mark in the building saying, trade Addison now. We can't afford his salary next year. That's why you moved off Sam Darnold. You got a quarterback on a rookie contract. You can't afford Jordan Addison. The cap's a myth. That's I hate and love that saying at the same time because it's so not a myth, but you can manipulate the cap in many ways to keep a guy like Jordan Addison. Yeah, Corey, we got all those in there. Don't worry about that. I like that question. Skywalk and McCarthy. We'll talk about KJ Osborne here coming up. But again, hashtag Vikings if you guys want to get a question in there or super chat. But I said we dive into it. Eddie's asking, do you think the Vikes will trade for Tyreek Hill? I got some answers for you guys. Let's break it down. Could the Minnesota Vikings be trading for superstar wide receiver Tyreek Hill? We're going to talk about it on today's edition of Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and I appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to watch me talk about my favorite football team, the Minnesota Vikings, and we're going to talk about Tyreek Hill. But why are we talking about this? Tom Pelissero tweeting out earlier on this morning saying with Jordan Addison suspended and multiple injuries, the Vikings are seriously exploring veteran wide receivers in the trade market. All-Pro Justin Jefferson is on track for Week 1, but his early season running mate may not be on the roster. And Pelissero hinting at the injuries. Well, they've gotten worse since that tweet. Today at practice, some Vikings wideouts got banged up. Kevin Seifert tweeting this out. This turned out to be a pretty physical practice. Wide receivers, Jordan Addison and Ty Felton left with what looked like to be hand and arm injuries. They remained on the sidelines but didn't resume practicing. Then also Jeff Okudah, not good there, went inside mid-practice with his right shoe off. So you're looking at this wide receiver room for Week 1. Naylor's hurt. Ty Felton's hurt. Rondell Moore out for the year. You got Justin Jefferson, Lucky Jackson, Tim Jones, Jayshon Jones. There's no doubt in my mind the Vikings will make a move for a wide receiver, but how big is that fish? We'll see. Maybe it's the size of Tyreek Hill. We'll discuss here in a second. But if you guys could hit that subscribe button today, because if we get any more news or rumors about the Vikings trading for a wide receiver, I'll stop whatever I'm doing and get a video for you guys ASAP. And plus, we're taking on Bears now in our little subscriber battle for Week 1. We're going to do a race to 100 subscribers. So I'm trying to get it on today's show. I know there's 100 of you guys watching right now that aren't subscribed. So hit that subscribe button today and help us beat Bears now in a Week 1 sub battle. Now, I want to get my take out here to start today's show. I am all in on the Vikings trading for Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill. Could you imagine what this team and what this offense could look like if we acquired the Dolphins wide receiver and you roll out there Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Tyreek Hill? It would create the best big three in NFL history at the wide receiver position. And if you have a chance to do something that great where it won't cost you, a future first or possibly a future second, I say the Vikings pick up the phone, call Miami, and see what you can do and try to acquire Tyreek Hill. But I'm all in on the move. Get Tyreek back in the purple and gold. That was his childhood team growing up. His kid's favorite player is Justin Jefferson. It makes all too much sense. But also Tyreek, still one of the better football players in the National Football League. I mean, it was just 2 seasons ago. This guy was in the conversation to win the MVP award. This is not just some, very good wide receiver. This is an all-time great talent. This is one of the best receivers we have ever seen in NFL history. And I do feel like sometimes as fans, we undervalue great. Where, we obviously know if players are good compared to great. But sometimes I feel like we undervalue like an all-time great receiver. And that's what Tyreek Hill is. I mean, the 2023 numbers are ridiculous. The guy went for 1,800 yards and 13 touchdowns just 2 seasons ago. Now, can he replicate that? Does he still have that juice? Probably not. But can he give you 1,200, 1,300 yards still? 110%. But we got to talk about the financials here because that's a big kicker. So right now, the Vikings have $27 million to spend for this upcoming season. Now, originally I thought the Vikings were just going to roll most of that money over since they are kind of up against the cap for that 2026 season. But if you could just spend 15 of that 27 million on a guy like Tyreek Hill, I'm doing it. Now, also, you guys probably see that number in 2026 of 39 million and are freaking out. That's not guaranteed. So hypothetically, if the Vikings trade for Tyreek Hill, and let's just say worst case scenario, it doesn't go well, the Vikings fizzle out, it's not a good move. You can cut Tyreek after the season, and it would just create a $15 million dead cap hit in 26, and then 3.17 in 27, and then the same years after in 28 and 29, just 3.17 million. So it's not really that risky of the move financially. And could you imagine just seeing these three guys, like everybody for a second? Imagine you're an opposing defense, and you're playing the Minnesota Vikings this upcoming week. And you know, hopefully, the Vikings are a better rushing team than they've been the last couple of years. And they're running the football well. And then you got to line up against those wide receivers, and you're staring at the best wideout in the game, a potential top 5 wide receiver of all time in Jefferson. You got one of the best twos in the league. I think he's a top 20 wide receiver. And Tyreek Hill, I think he's still a top 12 receiver in the league. So you got 3 top 20 guys in the league with a top 5 tight end, a top 5 offensive line, 2 good running backs, and Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones, and Kevin O'Connell calling the shots. Sign me up. But what could a trade look like? First trade idea here. It would just be Tyreek Hill straight up for a 2026 second-round pick. I think this would get it done in a heartbeat. I think if Miami could get a second for Tyreek Hill, they would say yes immediately. So this would be a move where it's like a desperation trade for the Minnesota Vikings where, Kwesi is just saying, hey, we have a need at this wide receiver position. We got to go get a guy. And a guy like Tyreek Hill is on the table, might as well. He's one of the best talents in the National Football League. And, we'll give credit to Purple for the Win podcast here. Saw him tweet this out, F them picks. This is obviously coming from the Los Angeles Rams when they acquired Von Miller and they were, and Jalen Ramsey, where they were super aggressive on the trade front and they gave multiple first-round picks, but they got a Super Bowl out of it. Like, be honest, that second-round pick for next season, is that guy we're going to draft going to be anywhere close to Tyreek Hill? Is he going to have anywhere close to the impact that Tyreek's going to have? Absolutely not. And if we're playing in the NFC title game, if we're potentially playing in the Super Bowl, are you going to care about that second-round pick? Again, absolutely not. But maybe you could include a player in there. What about this? A 2026 third-round pick and Blake Brandel. The Miami Dolphins have a massive need at their offensive line. And Blake Brandel would probably go there and end up starting. You could also maybe swap out Blake Brandel, throw in Justin School in there. But this trade, I'll be in on it as well. But between the two trades, you guys let me know. What one are you doing? Would you rather give up the second-round pick and no player, keep the depth on the offensive line? Or are you going with the second trade idea here, where it's a 2026 third-round pick, but you're also including some depth with Blake Brandel? Give me a 1 or give me a 2. You guys let me know what trade idea you guys would like for Tyreek Hill, but I'm doing either of these. If Miami offers either of these trades, I'm saying absolutely. But you guys let me know which one or 2 down below. Now, coming up next year on the program, I do want to talk about some other wide receivers because, Tyreek Hill trade is fantastic. Like, that sounds great on paper, but how likely is it? I think it has a chance, but I do want to talk about some more likely options here coming up next. But before we do so, today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, and preseason football is underway, and college football is here. So don't miss any of the action this season on Prize Picks. And if you guys download the Prize Picks app today and plug in promo code CLNS, you guys will get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. But Prize Picks is simple to play. All you got to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 40 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are safe, fast, safe, and secure. Prize Picks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. I also got a sweet deal going on right now where one Dak Prescott passing yard in week 1 of the season will get you guys a free win on Prize Picks. So make sure you guys include this in all of your lineups leading up to week 1. It's a free square for you guys, so make sure you guys include it in all of your lineups. But if you guys want, download the Prize Picks app today. Plug in that promo code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you put your first $5 lineup. A massive shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's edition of Vikings Now by Chat Sports. Prize Picks, run your game. Alrighty, let's talk about some more wide receivers here that the Vikings could potentially trade for, but also sign with a good amount of cap space left. Again, $27 million left to spend, so the Vikings can damn near do whatever they want. Anything is on the table for this guy right here, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. And the number one guy for me, if it's not Tyreek Hill, it's Colts wide receiver Alec Pierce. Everybody, take time out of your day after you're watching today's show and just go throw on Alec Pierce's 2024 highlights. This guy is a stud. I think he is one of the most undervalued, underrated wide receivers in the National Football League. And this past season, with playing with Joe Flacco and Anthony Richardson, he averaged 22.3 yards per catch. He almost had 1,000 yards on the entire year. And Pierce is my favorite choice besides Tyreek. There is no doubt in my mind. Honestly, there is a pretty big gap in terms of just talent you could bring in, where it's Tyreek Hill, a gap, Alec Pierce, and then another big gap to the next guy, Adam Thielen, which we'll talk about here in a second. But, Pierce is my favorite choice. I think he would be a great option. Now, yes, he is in a contract year. I don't know if the Vikings would be willing to pay him, but this could just be a one-year rental. If I'm believing what the Vikings are telling us, where, hey, this is a Super Bowl season, you have to be willing to give up draft capital to just take a one-year rental. It all goes back to the motto of F them picks, because you have to be aggressive, you have to be bold to get to the promised land, and this would be a bold move. Would I love giving up a third-round pick for just a one-year wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3? No. But if it results in the Vikings starting off the season 3-0, getting to the NFC Championship game, potentially getting to the Super Bowl, then yes, of course, I would be all in on it. But let's talk about him. You guys knew this was coming. I'm hooked on a Thielen right now, talking about Adam Thielen. Now, with the Panthers having a plethora of wide receivers, I think there is a chance that he will get dealt, probably not before the season unless the team gets overly aggressive, but I think definitely by the trade deadline, Thielen will be dealt somewhere else. And, I think a lot of us, when we're talking about Adam Thielen, obviously we get emotional talking about this guy. One of the coolest stories in NFL history, but this isn't about the storyline anymore. This is about football. This makes too much sense. He can still step in, be a great wide receiver 2 next to Jefferson, and him as a wide receiver 3 would still be one of the better ones in the league. This isn't about the storylines. This isn't about, a feel-good story for the fans. This is about getting real talent, and Adam Thielen is still that, because I thought after he left Minnesota, he was going to fall off the face of the earth. But he didn't. He's been awesome in Carolina the last 2 years. Even in just 10 games played this past season, 48 receptions, 615 yards, found the end zone 5 times. He could still be a great red zone threat. And even in the 2023 season, the guy had 100 catches and 1,000+ yards. He was still very, very productive. So Thielen, maybe you could call the Panthers and offer him a 4th-round pick. If that's the deal, I'm doing it. So, hey, Vikings fans, dust off those not KJ Osborne jerseys, Adam Thielen jerseys. But you may also have to dust off the KJ Osborne jerseys, because that's what we're talking about next. So I did put trade here, but there's also a good chance that KJ Osborne ends up getting cut. And this could be the typical, we'll see probably, 5 more of these trades come in over the next, 5 days before roster cutdown day, where a team, they send a player and a 7th-round pick, and then the team acquiring that will send a 6th-round pick in return. So a KJ Osborne trade could simply look like the Vikings are getting KJ, a 2026 7th, and the Vikings are sending over a 2026 6th-round pick. But there's also a chance the Commanders cut him. So if you're in the camp where the Vikings shouldn't give up any draft capital for another player at this point, then KJ is probably your guy. But listen, I love Osborne. I think, obviously his last year in Minnesota, the drops were a major issue. He wasn't, he didn't really hit that next level, which we thought he was going to, which is a little disappointing. But he would just be another body. He would be somebody who understands offense. He, knows what Kevin O'Connell is trying to accomplish on every single play. And if he's your wide receiver 2 for week 1, next to some of these younger guys, I'm feeling better about the room. But KJ Osborne's not a needle mover anymore. And that's why I'd rather have the Vikings just go big fish hunting here. But again, same conversation with KJ, kind of just being a body, is how I feel about Brandon Powell. Now, Brandon Powell obviously knows Kevin O'Connell for his times back in LA. He was with the Vikings, this past season, and he would also add some juice at the punt returning spot too, which would obviously is still a need for the Vikings. But Brandon Powell knows the system. He knows this game, and Brandon Powell also wants to be back on the Vikings. I thought it was pretty telling that he was on the game, or he was at the game this past Saturday. He posted this on his Instagram story. Now, he was shouting out Jayshon Jones and Thayer Thomas, so maybe he was just there supporting these guys, but there's a reason he hasn't signed anywhere else. Maybe he was waiting on some injuries across the league, and obviously with the injuries piling up for the Minnesota Vikings here, Powell does make some sense. Punt returner, can be a solid wide receiver 3. And even if the Vikings do get healthy with Addison, Ty Felton, Jalen Naylor coming back, he'll just be a good wide receiver 5 to have in the room as well. But a guy I get asked about a whole lot, Amari Cooper. Now, Amari Cooper, in his prime, he was a hell of a player. He had some of the best releases in the game, especially his time with the Dallas Cowboys. Some of the best routes you ever see ran on an NFL field. But I'm completely out on Amari, and mainly for 2 reasons. One, this guy's not a willing blocker, especially in the run game. Like, that has been his Achilles heel his entire career, even back in his prime. People would get on him for not being a willing run blocker. And plus, over the last couple of seasons, drops have been a major issue. He had 12 drops this past year. I would honestly rather have the Vikings just roll out with Lucky Jackson and the Jones brothers, Jayshon and Tim, instead of going and giving Amari Cooper like $5-6 million. I bet you Amari will sign with like the Bills again or just go to Pittsburgh. So I'm out on Amari Cooper. If you're going to go get a free agent, I would just rather get Brandon Powell. Obviously undersized receiver, but at least he tries to run block and he can offer you some punt return, ability there. So I'm all in on Tyreek. I'm all in on Alec Pierce. I'm all in on Adam Thielen. Let's go big fish hunting here because we need it. Like, this wide receiver room, it's awesome when they're fully healthy, but injuries are a real thing. And now this group, like the wide receiver position, is a real need. You're not going to fix that need by getting guys like Cooper, by getting guys like Brandon Powell, KJ Osborne. Go swing for the fences here. F them picks. But if you guys could, drop a name for me down below in the comment section. Name a receiver the Vikings should bring in. Whoever it may be, let me know your thoughts down below. We'll see you guys next time. As always, Skol Vikes. Alrighty. You guys let me know back on Tyreek Hill here. Give me a T for trade or give me a P for pass. Did I persuade any of you guys you guys were saying pass before, to hop in the Tyreek Hill trade sweepstakes? Is Marco still saying pass? A football saying T? Listen, if the offer is a 2nd-round pick or a 3rd and Blake Brandel, I think the Vikings have to do it. I understand why people wouldn't be in on it. But again, the Vikings would be a matchup nightmare for every single team. There would be no easy answer to stopping the Vikings offense. It would create an unsolvable problem. And could you imagine? I remember I was saying probably about a month ago, like, the Vikings have a walk-off-the-bus feel, where these guys in the locker room where confidence can just start to get built, where you're like, oh, there's Justin Jefferson. There's Christian Darrisaw. Like, defensively, Jonathan Allen, Hargrave, Grenard, Van Ginkel, Dallas Turner, and then just add another all-time talent like Tyreek Hill. Like, that would also send a message to the players on this team right now where it's like, hey, we're trying to win it all. We're not just trying to win a playoff game. We're trying to win 3 playoff games. We're trying to win 4 playoff games. So I would do it in a heartbeat, but I'm sure you guys will have some questions on that in our mailbag, so we'll talk about that again. But we're going to be diving into an Anthony Richardson segment here, talk about the backup quarterback position as, it's still a need. So if you guys got any more questions on Tyreek Hill, get those questions in there. # Vikings or Super Chat to get up on the show. Shout to Skywalker McCarthy for getting another question in there. But, man, could you imagine Tyreek rocking the purple and gold? The guy still got it, man. It's not like he's a completely cooked product. Is he the guy that he was a couple years ago where he was the best wide receiver in the league? No, but is he still a top 12 receiver? Abso-freaking-lutely. And plus, he would be so much better in this system. When you're playing next to Jefferson, your life's easier. So I'm doing it. 110%. But Mary, coming in, what's going on? Everybody give me a Skol Mary down below in the comment section. We appreciate you supporting the show, but she is saying we need a big guy. Stop playing with the little ones. We need a win. You want a big body wide receiver? It's not too many out there. I guess Thielen you would chop up to be a bigger body wide receiver, but even Thielen just 6'1", about $190. Trying to think of any other big body receivers out there. I mean, somebody asked about Mike Evans. Evans isn't getting dealt. Can't really think of any. There's not really too many out there, but Mary, could you imagine the pressure that Tyreek Hill would put on defenses? Like, hey, that little guy in the slot, that little guy split out wide, those DBs are shaking. They're playing on their heels. They do not want to get beat over the top. It would be a matchup nightmare. I'm just too sold on this idea of the Vikes trading for Tyreek Hill. Marco Sports, great question. What number will Justin Jefferson rank in the NFL top 100 list? I already know Jamar Chase is going to be ranked higher than him, and it's going to drive me absolutely mad. But that's okay. Detroit has 3, Tim Patrick, Isaac Tesla, and Meek Scary. Yeah, I mean, Detroit's got a great wide receiver room as well. I think they got one of the most underrated duos in the league. Like, even though they do get a lot of love, like some people will rank Detroit as the number 1 wide receiver duo, which I think is a little ludicrous. But Jamison Williams is a stud. Amon-Ra is obviously a dog. And I'll wait and see how that plays out there. But Trey Brown saying Tyreek Hill top 7. I mean, obviously he had a down year this past year. I don't know if he's a top 7 receiver anymore. But if somebody told me I still think Tyreek Hill's top 10, I would listen to that argument. But I think he's for sure, right outside that top 10. Still an all-timer. Still an all great talent we have ever seen. I would do it. But last call to get those questions in there. We're going to talk about Anthony Richardson coming up next. But if you guys got a question on Tyreek Hill, whatever it may be around the Minnesota Vikings, hashtag Vikings or super chat to get up on the show. Appreciate all the real ones. We've already super chatted today. I don't know if Jefferson will be top 5 because you'll have Burrow, Mahomes, Allen, and Lamar will for sure, I think, all be in the top 5. Then Saquon, he'll be in the top 5. I think Chase will probably be 6. I would probably put Jefferson at, I think he'll come in at like 7 to 10, right around that range. Hopefully. I could see also Jefferson coming in about freaking 15 and it pissing me off. But let me know your thoughts on Juwan Jennings. I would be in on Juwan Jennings. Probably should have talked about him because he is having a contract dispute right now with San Fran. But also San Fran, they need more receivers. So I don't know how willing they would be to move off Juwan Jennings. But that's a good question, Slim Nasty. I would definitely be in on that. But Connor saying Skull, appreciate you, man. Passmaster, what's going on? Good evening, Patrick and chat. Hashtag real one. Passmaster, better tune in Friday. Got a surprise for you. Friday night watch party. Tune in then. You won't regret it. Won't regret it. Weston Monson. That's a comment right there, huh? Alrighty, we're gonna talk about Anthony Richardson here. That's funny. That's something. All right. We'll get to the super chat from Joker Nation, and then we'll talk about Anthony Richardson. As he says, I would do a trade for Ty or Pierce, but what about OBJ? I'd be in on OBJ. I also got that LSU connection with Jefferson. Played under Kevin O'Connell already with Los Angeles, so I'd be in on it. And plus OBJ would probably go for like 1 year, $3 million at this point. But, yeah. I think for OBJ, I'll be saying yes if you're not going big fish hunting. Like, I don't want like the Vikings signing OBJ to hold up another big trade, but Alec Pierce, home run, OBJ, I'll be sick as well. So any of those guys. If I can just need another wide receiver, man, like this has became a real issue. This isn't just something where we're kind of just speculating on it and, it's not like a real thing. This is a real thing. Like I know how great Jefferson is, but you need another wide receiver, else he is just going to get blanketed the entire game. He won't be as impactful. But if you get that man, Tyreek Hill, good luck trying to guard the Minnesota Vikings. Like we would literally create the best offense in the National Football League. At least on paper, it would come down to McCarthy. I would do it. Shout out to CIC Gamer saying shout out, please. Shout out to you, Brody. But let's talk about Anthony Richardson here. Daniel Jones named the starter in Indianapolis. A. Rich isn't too happy about it. Let's talk about it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome on in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, Anthony Richardson. Should the Vikings trade for the Colts quarterback? I've been asked a lot. People are hopping in the comments section. People are DMing me on Twitter. What are your thoughts on Anthony Richardson? We'll discuss it on today's show. But first, I want your guys' thoughts. Should the Vikings trade for Anthony Richardson? Give me Y for yes. Give me an N for no down below in the comments section. If you're against it, totally understand it. But if you're for it, explain why. If you guys could. Would you trade for Anthony Richardson? Y for yes, N for no. Now, there is one guy that I fully know who would love an Anthony Richardson trade. And it's our head coach. It's Kevin O'Connell. If you guys remember, last year, Sunday Night Football, this was the game after Anthony Richardson got benched for Joe Flacco. KOC met AR after the game. He was just saying, you're a dog. Keep your head up. You're going to be in this league for a very, very long time. And that kind of surprised some people. But it didn't surprise me. Because if you guys remember, when Anthony Richardson was coming out and Kirk had 1 year left on his contract, there were some rumors about the Vikings trading up for him. But I think it was underreported how aggressive the Vikings were in trying to trade up for the Florida quarterback. Well, Brett Coleman had this to say. I don't think people realize how hard the Vikings tried to trade up for Anthony Richardson last year. Like, the haul that they put on the table was massive. They're going to give away the entire farm. All of it. They were going to give everything. But it takes two to tango. Their trade partner thought they were going to be too good. And so they went elsewhere. So, literally the team the Vikings were trying to trade up for thought the first round picks for Minnesota were going to be, in the 20s, in the 30s, and it could have been so different. Like, what we're talking about with this Vikings team, if they did send that haul for Richardson, it probably would have been a disaster, but you never know. Kevin O'Connell gets his hands on that guy. Maybe he could have ended up working out, but, we talk about, like, where we are right now with J.J. McCarthy on a rookie contract, like, the whole Vikings world, like, everything we're talking about, like, you talk about the butterfly door effect, like, that is one of those moves that could have changed not only the Vikings, but the entire NFL. Like, where would have McCarthy been? Where would the Vikings have been drafting when they took McCarthy? Like, it could have been completely different. But why did the Colts turn the keys to the franchise over to Daniel Jones? Because Anthony Richardson hasn't been too good. Here are his stats for the first two seasons. On the left, his rookie year, only playing in 4 games. Obviously, accuracy being a major issue with AR. 59.5% completion percentage, threw for 577 yards in 4 games, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Now, obviously, he has that great dual threat ability. Still was able to pick up 136 yards on the ground, but this past year was real bad. 47.7% completion percentage. That shouldn't even be possible in the NFL. Threw for 1,800 yards, 8 touchdowns, 12 picks. Did have 500 yards on the ground, but we know that's obviously, the best part of his game. And my argument to bringing Anthony Richardson in would just be let KOC cook. Let Kevin O'Connell get his hands on him, because all these guys that are shown right now have had career years under KOC. Kirk Cousins, the best version of him we saw in the entire NFL was with Kevin O'Connell. Then he goes to Atlanta. Terrible. Sam Darnold, we'll see if he's good in Seattle. But the 7 previous seasons before this past one, Darnold was about to be out of the NFL. Even Josh Dobbs for that magical run for 2 to 3 games, KOC got the most out of him. I guarantee you he would get the most out of Anthony Richardson, whatever that is. And, I do want to make this point here real quick. He would obviously be the backup quarterback. But also I wouldn't rule out Anthony Richardson maybe playing like a Taysom Hill role if the Vikings try to trade for him. Like, you have some certain packages where you go like, QB powers, either way, could give a different look for this Vikings offense. And plus, like JJ, still being a slimmer quarterback, you want a tush-push guy? Anthony Richardson is up there as some of the best tush-push quarterbacks in the NFL. So if it's for like a 4th or 5th round pick, I'm doing it. And plus, like, let's just say you trade for him. It could be the same situation as Daniel Jones, where the Vikings trade for Richardson, a team gambles on him the next year, you could just get that pick right back because of the comp pick. So, if you trade a 4th, probably will end up being a 4th or 5th, coming back to you the next season. But I'll ask you guys this about the backup quarterback position. Do you think it's an issue? Or are you cool rolling out with Max Brosmer, Sam Howell, Brett Rippon, whoever ends up winning that battle for the entire season? Give me a Y for yes. Give me an N for no down below. Is the backup QB position an issue for the Minnesota Vikings? Now, I do want to talk about some other guys. Obviously, Kirk Cousins, little Joe Flacco talk. We'll discuss that here in a second. A couple of guys that could potentially be traded midway through the season. So we'll talk about that here shortly. But before we do so, today's episode of Vikings Now by Chat Sports is brought to you by Prize Picks. Now, preseason football is underway and college football is here. So don't miss any of the action this season on Prize Picks. If you guys download the Prize Picks app today and use promo code CLNS, you guys will get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks is simple to play. All you got to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. Prize Picks is also the best way to get action on sports in more than 40 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. And Prize Picks puts their members first. So all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Prize Picks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. And they also have a sweet deal going on for you guys right now. Week 1 of the football season, where one Dak Prescott passing yard will get you 1 win on Prize Picks. It's a free square, so make sure you guys include this in all of your lineups this upcoming weekend and beyond before Week 1 gets underway here in a couple of weeks. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. But massive shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's edition of Vikings Now by Chat Sports. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, let's talk about 5 quarterbacks here real quickly that, if it's not Anthony Richardson, the Vikings don't feel comfortable with Max Brosmer, Sam Howell, Brett Rippon. There are some guys out there. And number 1, I actually changed it. I'm going to go to Jameis Winston here. Now, I think this is a move that could happen before the season. The Giants are obviously turning the keys of the franchise over to Jackson Dart at some point this season. But their starter will be Russell Wilson, Dart as the backup. Do they have a need for Jameis? I think they'd be willing to move off him if the price is right. Now, they're just not going to, trade Jameis for a 6th or 7th round pick. I think this would probably be a 4th or 5th round pick that could get it done. And, Jameis, I think he would give you a better shot to win a game than Brosmer. And also, you talk about a, volatile quarterback, a guy who throws a ton of interceptions, ton of touchdowns. That type of quarterback, I think with Kevin O'Connell, could have some success because that's what Sam Darnold was. Like, Sam Darnold, he always had a big arm. He always could, touch every blade of grass on the football field, but you just kind of need the sandpaper his game. And I'm not saying, like, Jameis could have a Sam Darnold-esque season, but he could be way better than what we have seen. So, Jameis for 4th or a 5th, I'd be in. But then number 2, Kirk Cousins. The only way I am trading for Kirk Cousins is if J.J. McCarthy has to miss significant time. Then 100% we're bringing back Kirk. Like, I think that would be a likely option. I think that's honestly how it would play out. Now, obviously, number 1, he knows Minnesota. He knows Kevin O'Connell. He knows the system. He already has that connection with Justin Jefferson. And is Kirk completely cooked? Maybe, but also he was dealing with a shoulder elbow injury last year that was kind of underreported. So if he's more healthy, I still think he could be successful for this team where, I still think the Vikings can make the playoffs if they had Kirk Cousins at quarterback, 110%. Like, the team is too stacked for me not to think that, especially with how good the defense should be this upcoming year. So Kirk, only way I make that call to Atlanta is if J.J. McCarthy has to miss significant time. And the same goes for Andy Dalton. Now, by no means am I saying the Panthers are going to want to trade Andy Dalton. I think they want to keep him around to have that veteran next to Bryce Young. So I think out of all the guys we talk about today, Dalton is probably the one that is least likely to happen. But he, again, like, could the Vikings make the playoffs with Dalton? I think so. Like, this team is very, very good. And if JJ were to have to go down, like, could they make it with Max Brosmer? Maybe. Who the hell knows? But probably not. But Dalton, I think so as well. And, same thing goes for this guy, Joe Flacco. Now, Flacco's obviously going to start probably the first month of the season for the Cleveland Browns. He's already named the starter. So, they're not trading him before the year. But this could, again, be an in-season move where, the Browns, they turn it over to Shador, Dylan Gabriel, or Kenny Pickett. And maybe the Vikings pick up the phone if JJ's out for a month and you say, hey, we'll give you, like, the typical 6th, 7th round pick swap you guys just send us Flacco. I think that's an intriguing choice. And then same goes with Tyrod Taylor here coming in at number 5. I think this is unlikely as well. I think the Jets are going to want to keep him around for the entire season. But, if the price is right, you can get any trade done in the NFL. And, Tyrod is still a solid quarterback. Like, he's got a great deep ball. He's got some mobility. I think in this offense, it would be really, really solid as well. But, at the backup QB spot, like, there are no, great answers to that problem. Like, we were hoping that Sam Howell was the answer to that. And obviously he hasn't shown enough so far. But I don't think the Vikes make a move before the season unless it's Anthony Richardson. And then if they do trade for A-Rich, I would assume the Vikings would have some sort of package for him where it's not like, hey, we're trading for him. You're just sitting on the bench the entire year. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But I would expect a little Taysom Hill role coming out of Anthony Richardson if that trade does come to fruition. But if you guys made it to the end of today's show, we appreciate you. Hit me with a skull down below in the comment section. Also, if you guys want to hit me up on Twitter, that's a handle right there at Pat Sieps. We appreciate all of you guys watching. As always, Skull Vikes. Alrighty, you guys let me know. Is the backup quarterback position an issue? I know with all this wide receiver talk, we've kind of forgotten about the backup QB spot here. If we get Jameis, JJ will go for $3K. Jefferson would break the receiving record with Jameis Winston. 110%. Z Cool saying no. Z's got some faith in Brosmer. Lego Fella saying yes. Reed Southern saying yes. Connor Vikings saying no. Mix saying yes. What's going on, Cohen Banks? Skull Patty, yes. Yes, sir. Shout out to you, Lee. Oh, you're calling Thielen cooked? Come on. An upgrade is an upgrade. Rocky saying no. Yeah, that's Rocky's actually my dad. He is funny enough, he's anti-JJ McCarthy. He's anti-giving up future draft capital. He's anti-trading for a backup quarterback. I think you just hit an age as a Vikings fan where, you have gone through enough. You've gone through enough struggle. You have almost PTSD where you're just negative about everything. You don't want anything to happen. My uncles are like that too. They can't get themselves excited about a Vikings team. And I'll probably be the same way in 10, 15 years if the same thing that has happened for the Vikings the previous 20 happened for the next 20 years. So it's not even like I blame them. My dad is like that, LMAO. I'm the same way. Your family is, homie. Yeah, it's the older Vikings fans are just, for right reason, they're almost like, hey, you're guilty before proven innocent type of mentality. Reed saying, what do you think our score is going to be this year? Assuming you're saying record. 11-6, trade for Tyreek Hill. 12-5. Maybe 13-4. Alrighty, but we will be diving into a mailbag here in about 30 seconds. The last call. If you guys got a question for me, #Vikings, super chat to get up on the show. Whatever you guys want to talk about, Tyreek Hill, backup quarterback spot, cut candidates, anything. You guys let me know. Just get a question in there. Just makes me nervous and scares me. I'm trying to be more optimistic as a Vikes fan. Have you discussed the cheerleader situation? Yeah, I did on the watch party, but I'll discuss it right now. If you have a problem with the male cheerleaders, one, I think you're probably a loser, and two, who the hell cares? The Vikings could have all male cheerleaders, and I could give two shits about it. If that is bothering you that much, you probably got some stuff going on in your personal life that's not too good. I could really care less. I mean, people who are threatening to stop going to games, just stop. They're cheerleaders. They're not for you. They are not for the diehard football fans. So, yeah, Z Cool is saying it perfectly. I don't watch game for the cheerleaders. I watch for the game. And also, put yourself in the position of the male cheerleaders, and you go on Twitter, you go on social media, and you're just getting criticized. People are coming at you. Like, they don't deserve that. Like, we should probably be supporting them. I think it's a little ludicrous if you are getting upset about it, and if you're saying I'm not going to watch the show anymore because of that take, I probably don't want you watching the show. I think if you have a problem with it, you're a loser. Who the hell cares? They're cheerleaders. We're here to watch football. Like, come on, everybody, wake up a little bit. Like, can we all grow up? Come on. Yeah, it's a cheerleader. Grow up. Who the F cares? If you got a problem with it, probably a loser. So, crash out, Steeps. Listen, I would love to crash out on it. But also, and I just see too much hate about it, and it kind of drives me crazy. I'm like, I feel bad for, like, the Blaze guy, and I don't know the other one's name, but it's just insane. Like, yeah, I don't care at all. Come on, people. Like, let's just keep it real. Who cares? We could have all male cheerleaders. I don't give a shit. You shouldn't care either. We're here to watch J.J. McCarthy and Justin Jefferson, not some damn cheerleaders. Wake up. Come on. Still don't get the point? You don't need to understand the point. Nobody needs to understand the point. It doesn't matter to us. It is for other people watching the game. All righty. That's all I'm going to say on it. Dropping that conversation. Back to football. Let's talk Tyreek Hill, Anthony Richardson, but mailbag coming up. Hashtag Vikings or Super Chat to get up on today's show. Appreciate all of you guys taking time here today for tuning in. Fun day to be a Vikings fan. Got reports about them potentially training for a wide receiver. So we're going to keep talking about that compared to other stuff. So if you guys are ready to rock and roll, we'll dive into it. Make sure you guys have hit that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. I've already had 2,200 people tune into today's live show, so that's awesome stuff. Really do appreciate you guys. We're so close to the season, man. So if you guys don't know about me, so I was born in Minneapolis, grew up in Chicago. All of my friends are all diehard Bears fans, and I've had the same group chat since I was 14 years old, my freshman year of high school. And we have gone back and forth for years and years and years about Vikings versus the Bears. And I don't think I've ever been more excited for a singular game in my life. Like, I'm even more excited for this game than I was for Week 18 last year. Now, I don't know if that's me kind of being more in the moment here, but, man, I cannot wait. The offseason champs, the Chicago Bears, people are saying Caleb Williams should win MVP because of one preseason drive. I'm hoping Brian Flores and this crew just completely shut that door week 1, Monday night in Chicago. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait. The watch party is going to be electric. I'm going to be a nervous wreck during that game. I'm going to try to keep my emotions intact, but I'll say this right now. JJ starts slinging that thing all over the Bears defense. We're going to be talking a lot of noise. We're going to be talking a lot of shit to Bears fans, so it's going to be fun. Yeah, young quarterback's worst nightmare. Brian Flores, no doubt. But if you guys are ready to rock and roll, mailbag coming up, Super Chat to get up on the show. Let's do it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and today's show is a good old-fashioned mailbag where it's just me and you chopping it up about your Minnesota Vikings, and we got a lot to talk about. A lot of reports have came out over the last couple of days about them trading for a receiver, them trading for a backup quarterback. So we'll dive into it all on today's show. But first one coming in here, Z Cool, real one on the channel, legend on the channel. Z Cool is actually going to be at the game when you guys are seeing this video today in Tennessee. So shout out to Z. But he's saying with the tutelage from Jefferson and KOC, we don't need a big proven wide receiver. Who, in your opinion, isn't well known that could blossom in our wide receiver room? I'll actually say two guys that have already been on the Minnesota Vikings, and that being Brandon Powell and KJ Osborne. I think if we're not going big fish hunting, where you're not going out there and trying to acquire Tyreek Hill, you're trying to acquire Alec Pierce, I think Brandon Powell and KJ Osborne would be two just easy choices where they would just be, another body in that room. They know what Kevin O'Connell is asking for on any given play. They know the system well. They know the culture. Now, would it take some time for them to get on the same page with J.J. McCarthy? Sure. But if you're not going big fish hunting, I would rather go and bring back a guy like KJ Osborne or Brandon Powell instead of them going out there and signing Amari Cooper, who, I'm out on Coop. He can't catch the football anymore. He's he does not want to run block. So I would rather just have KJ Osborne or Brandon Powell. But Zeke Cool, I disagree with you. I'm not saying we need a big proven wide receiver, but I think Tyreek Hill, I'm all in on that move. Corey Miller saying, is it worth waiting for a wide receiver to be cut? It's definitely worth waiting, but the only argument I would make against that is if you are waiting for a receiver to be cut, there's a reason he's getting cut, and it's not going to be a needle-moving wide receiver. Like, KJ Osborne could very well be cut by the Washington Commanders. And if the Vikings sign him, sick. That would be a great move. But is that, taking the Vikings to another level? No, that's just another guy that kind of manned the ship over the first 3 weeks. And, let me ask you guys this. Are we just trying to man the ship for the first 3 weeks? Are we just trying to, be all right? Are we trying to go all in on this year? Because all the moves the Vikings have made, they have made it crystal clear that they view themselves as a Super Bowl contender. So go make a Super Bowl contending move. Go get an Alec Pierce. Go, trade for Tyreek Hill. Like, that's where I do disagree with some people where it's like, oh, we can just get a KJ Osborne. We can just get a Brandon Powell and it'll all be good. If you just had KJ Osborne on the roster right now, is that really changing how we're feeling rolling into week 1? Not necessarily. But Alec Pierce and Tyreek Hill would 100% change my thoughts. So is it worth waiting? Like, yes, but also I just think the Vikings need to be aggressive and pick up the phone. Skywalking McCarthy. Love this profile pic. Love this name. #Vikings. Rather than trading for Hill, should we claim Osborne off waivers and trade for Adam Thielen? When Addison is back, they can get pushed down the depth chart. Now, that's something I would be interested in because then you're bringing in 2 guys. If you go trade for Adam Thielen, and then when, Addison's out and you're rolling out Jefferson, Thielen at the 2, KJ Osborne at the 3, like then I'm feeling different about this room. And then obviously, like you were saying, when Addison gets back, then it's like Jefferson, Addison, Thielen, and then it's like KJ Osborne, Ty Felton, and Naylor. Like that's your wide receiver room where that makes this, the Vikings have an issue at that spot to, again, being one of the top units in the National Football League. So I like this idea a lot better, but if it's just claim KJ Osborne off waivers, that's not doing enough for me. There has to be a follow-up move, and that follow-up move's trading for Adam Thielen. Sign me up. Abby Skoll. This is a... Kids, close your ears. Abby, this is a fucked up question. Would you rather see Adam Thielen or Teddy Bridgewater back? Oh, man. These are 2 of my all-time favorites. If I'm not, considering, position of need and how the Vikings roster is shaking out right now, just guys to, wear that purple and gold jersey one more time, I think it's still Thielen. Especially Thielen, still, a starter in the NFL. Teddy's just a backup at this point. And, I think a better answer to this question would be, who do I want to see win a Super Bowl with the Vikings more, Teddy or Thielen? It would be Thielen 110%. So, tough question, Abby. Sorry for cursing, but I like that. No, but my answer to that would be Thielen over Teddy Two Gloves. Slim Nasty coming in saying, I'm going to hear your thoughts on Jawan Jennings, Pat. I love Jawan Jennings. Now, I don't think the Niners are going to be willing to trade him. Diana Rossini put out a report Wednesday morning that the Niners, Jets, and Vikings are all calling teams for other wide receivers. Now, he is also dealing with a contract dispute here in San Francisco. So maybe if it gets bad enough, then the Vikings could potentially trade for him. But I think San Fran, with Brandon Ayuk not supposed to be back till about week 6, they really just have Ricky Pearsall and then a bunch of nobodies. I'm assuming they will want to keep Jawan Jennings no matter what. So I would love the idea. The dude's a great run blocker. I think he'd be a great wide receiver 2 and a fantastic wide receiver 3 when Addison gets back. So, yeah, if the Vikings could trade for him, I would do it 110%. I just don't think it's too likely as it stands right now. Marco Sports, what's going on, Brody? What number will Justin Jefferson rank in the NFL Top 100 list? Vikings fans, we're all going to get triggered over the next couple of weeks. Jamar Chase will be ranked higher than Jefferson. I promise you that right now. But where will he fall? So all 4 quarterbacks will be higher than him. Mahomes, Lamar, Allen, and Burrow. Saquon will be higher than him. Chase will be higher than him. Derrick Henry will probably be higher than him. I would probably say Jefferson will float between 8 to 12. But if he's outside the top 15, if Jefferson comes out 17, 18, I'm going to be absolutely furious. But that's also the point of this top 100 list, is to just get reactions out of people. But most likely it would be 8 to 15 around there. But hey, speaking about week 1 against the Chicago Bears, I can't wait, man. I'm already having a tough time sleeping at night. Just imagine what it's going to be like when I'm standing right here in the spot that I'm in right now, and I got the Monday Night Football on the TV. Soldier Field's going bananas. You just see J.J. McCarthy walk out there in his hometown. I can't wait. So if you guys want the Vikes to beat the Bears, start the season off 1-0, give me a skull down below in the comment section. All right, we'll dive into more of your questions here in a second. But before we do so, I got to tell you guys about Prize Picks, and today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. And preseason football is underway, and college football is here. So don't miss out on any of the action this season with Prize Picks. And if you guys download the Prize Picks app today and plug in that promo code CLNS, we'll hook you guys up with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Now, Prize Picks, it's simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And if you get them right, you can win up to 2,000 times your money. Prize Picks is also the best way to get action on sports in more than 40 states, including Texas, California, Florida, and Georgia. Prize Picks also puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Prize Picks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. And they also got a deal for week 1 of the football season, where Dak Prescott, 1 passing yard, will get you guys 1 free square on Prize Picks. Make sure you guys include this in all of your lineups leading up to week 1. It's a free square. It's easy money, so take advantage. I'm going to be adding it to all my lineups, and you guys should as well. So download the Prize Picks app today. Plug in that promo code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. A massive shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's show. Prize Picks, run your game. Take advantage of that. I love playing Prize Picks during the season. I think it was the Vikings-Falcons game last year. I won like $1,400 off Prize Picks. It was an unreal one, but also I was being a homer. I was taking like Jefferson, Addison, all their mores, and ended up working out. So, hey, shout out to Prize Picks. But Connor Vikings coming in saying, should the Vikings sign Tyler Boyd? For another body, yeah, I'd be willing to do that, but it kind of falls in the same camp of like Amari Cooper, Gabe Davis. Like, is Tyler Boyd changing how I'm feeling about this room? Like, yeah, heading into week 1, I'm feeling a little better because you at least have another guy next to Jefferson, but it's not moving any needle. Like, the Bears, like, think about it from their perspective. If you're a Bears fan, Vikings side Tyler Boyd, are you getting nervous whatsoever? No. So, I would not. But, like, if the Vikings don't trade for anybody and they don't go out there and get a big fish, like, yeah, like, I would be in on, signing Tyler Boyd there. Trey Brown, would you consider trading for Andy Dalton and Adam Thielen? But I don't know what the trade package would be. I got to go now, so you can keep this question for later. All right, sweet Trey. Hopefully you end up seeing this. But what would a trade package be? 4th round pick, or no, 3rd round pick in Sam Howell, 3rd round pick in Brett Rippon. You kind of just call the Panthers, be like, hey, you want Brosmer, Howell, or Rippon? Take one of those 3. We'll attach a 3rd there. It probably ends up getting it done, but I feel like it's very rare in the NFL. We see like a 2-player trade. I guess we did just see that with the Miami Dolphins and Pittsburgh Steelers when they got Jonnu Smith and whatever his name is, Jalen Ramsey. But, yeah, unlikely that happens. Maybe that's a deadline move, but, yeah, I don't know. The Vikings aren't trading for Andy Dalton unless, JJ gets hurt. So, that's what I'll say there. Chicken Muncher, what's going on? Hey, Pat. I heard Ty Felton is starting kick returner. Thoughts? Yeah, I did hear that. And then they also listed Ty Chandler as the backup. I'm cool with that. The guy's got great breakaway speed. Like, we saw it when he was the gunner on that one punt play this past preseason. He was bolting down the field. So, he's got juice to be a kick returner. And plus, if he's going to have a limited role as a receiver once Addison gets back, I would at least like to get something out of the 3rd round pick. So, him being a kick returner, I'm cool with that. Yeah, but it's not like I absolutely love it. I think it's going to change the Vikings special teams. I just like the move. Well, Zazy, what's going on, man? Saying, what about OBJ? Yes. kind of similar to Tyler Boyd, but I would rather have OBJ than Tyler Boyd. I just, again, like, if the Vikings don't make a move for a Tyreek Hill, for an Alec Pierce, then, yeah, like, guys like OBJ, Tyler Boyd, Gabe Davis, even Amari Cooper, even though I've been, saying absolutely not. Like, I would have more interest in them, but I just honestly, like, my gut's telling me the Vikings, like, we're going to get a big trade here coming up. And it's going to be for Alec Pierce, Tyreek Hill, or even a guy, like, we haven't even heard of. Like, here, perfect segue into what Corey Miller's saying. I just saw Chris Olave, Jacoby Myers. Here, let me just answer this here real quick, Corey. I see rumors on Chris Olave trade as well, but that would be crazy. Would you rather trade for Tyreek, Olave, or Jacoby Myers? Out of all these guys, it's Tyreek. Now, Olave, he would cost more than Tyreek since he's younger, and he's under contract for 2 years. Jacoby, if I had to rank these, I'd probably go Tyreek 1, Jacoby Myers 2, Chris Olave 3, even though Olave is better than Jacoby. But Jacoby, he's also having a contract dispute with Las Vegas right now. He's going to want around $18 million a year. Vikings aren't going to give that to him, obviously. So you'd be trading for a 1-year rental, and if I'm going to trade for a 1-year rental, I would rather just pay the bigger price and get the better player and the bigger fish, which is Tyreek Hill. Honestly, I just think the Tyreek Hill stuff makes too much sense. Like way too much sense. The guy grew up a Vikings fan. His favorite player, or his son's favorite player, is Justin Jefferson. He wants to go win a Super Bowl. This is the spot to be. Tyreek Hill, demand a trade to the Minnesota Vikings. I'll make this a lot easier. Eddie coming in, saying, should we try to get Christian Wilkins? No. I'm all right. I understand, him and Flores have that connection back at the Miami days, but we're already stacked at D tackle. Hargrave, Allen, Phillips, and even the young guys I'm massive fans of, and I wouldn't want Wilkins taking snaps away from, Jalen Redmond, Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins, or even if like Elijah Williams or, Taki Taimani, they end up making the team. I don't want, Christian Wilkins taking a roster spot, plus the guy's just a head case. He's got there are some, you want to go dive into some deep rumors, just go search up Christian Wilkins. I don't want to speculate too much, but this guy's kind of a weirdo. I don't want to bring him to the Vikings, so sounds good. If we were playing Madden, 110%, but real life football, absolutely not. Let me ask you guys this. Close out today's show. Name your favorite player, or who's your favorite Vikings player of all time? For me, the guy that made me fall in love with the team growing up was Adrian Peterson. But favorite of all time, it's probably Harry. It's probably Harrison Smith. Like, if I would see a picture of that man hoisting the Lombardi trophy, I would break down into tears. Like, there's nothing I want more. I want Harry to win a Super Bowl with the Vikings more than anything ever in my life. So, but yeah, that was just AP. I grew up watching him. Like, watching highlights. Obviously, Randy Moss was unreal. Wish I got to see him when I was, or I wish I was, obviously alive when Randy was really kicking it with the Vikes. But, yeah, I don't know. I'll probably go Adrian Peterson. Obviously, Thielen's up there. I was a massive Stephon Diggs guy, massive Teddy Bridgewater guy. Trying to think of, like, another random one. Like, Rudolph. I loved Kyle Rudolph, so he would be up there, too. Daniil Hunter was also one of my guys. So, there's a bunch of them. But you guys drop your favorite Vikings player of all time down below. And also, if you guys want to hit me up on Twitter, that's a handle, at Pat Sieps right there. Give me a follow over there. I'll give you guys a follow right back. See you guys next time. As always, Skol Vikes. I just, bit my tongue when I was trying to get that out. A little behind the scenes for you guys. Fran Tarkenton coming in. I saw, oh my God, I showed Dylan this. One story and then we'll sign off. Fran Tarkenton, I think my dad sent it to me. He scored a touchdown. And again, this was back in the 70s. He scored a touchdown. The defensive player starts talking smack to him. Fran Tarkenton fully winds up, throws the football at his helmet, and then it obviously resulted in an all-out brawl. If Fran did that or somebody did that nowadays, you're probably suspended the entire season. Like, I'm talking, it is 5 feet away from people, and a quarterback uncorks one into the dude's helmet. It was one of the funniest clips I've ever seen. Ezekiel saying, I swear you're a Blair Walsh fan. I was a Blair Walsh fan until that dreadful moment in the Golden Gopher Stadium. But, yeah, Ed Ingram, he's up there. Garrett Bradbury up there for favorite Vikings. Oh, man, who is that one guard? Dakota Dozier. It's good that the Vikings have an offensive line. You know what's hilarious is Bengals fans are like saying, oh, we got to sign Dalton Reisner. We got to do this. And it's like, that used to be us. We used to be that sick in the head fan base that thought that signing a guy like Dalton Reisner was going to change things. Yeah, very high on Lewisine. Yeah, Laquan Treadwell. Oh, my God. I've never been more wrong about a player than Laquan Treadwell. I thought he was going to be a dog, man. Still love the Moss Carter duo. All right, one last question for all you old heads in the chat. Who would be a better wide receiver trio? Jefferson, Addison, and Tyreek Hill, or Reed, Carter, and Moss? I don't even think it's close. I think it's Jefferson, Addison, and Hill. But also, all right, Moss, Jefferson equals. Carter, advantage over Addison. Tyreek, significant advantage over Reed. That is probably the best wide receiver trio in NFL history. So might as well do it again. But we're going to sign off here. Appreciate all of you guys tuning in. We'll be live Friday for the game. So make sure you guys tune in then. But see you guys next time. Skol Vikes.